Sydney, Australia. So far what has struck me about Sydney after being here a whole half a day is the sameness actually. It really reminds me a lot of a laid-back version of Toronto. I mean, there's people are fairly well dressed and quite smart looking, lots of like suits and business attire walking around. The kid has like the Power City stroller through the narrow streets. Shopping is a very popular pastime, it seems. There's lots of people out, girls running the streets in high heels, or the opposite of that, where you have like business wear and then tennis shoes on to get around the commute. So far it's funny. Like, I don't know why I thought like traveling for so long I was expecting it to be really different, and I guess my last sort of trans-Pacific trip was to Japan, which is very like strikingly culturally different, but here I feel very much at home. Like, it's just as sort of multicultural, I would say, as Toronto. It's kind of been an interesting experience so far, but so far I don't feel like I'm on the other side of the world at all. So now we are about to go on a free walking tour.
I think walking tours are probably my favorite way to see a city. It's just a different scale and a different time. Like, you just see different things when you walk instead of going on a bus tour or driving. I learned quite a bit of Australian history on this tour. It's actually really interesting. This tour largely focused on the European colonization, which is relatively recent history. The Dutch were the first to discover the western side of Australia, sailing there in 1660 and naming it New Holland. But the eastern side, where we are right now, was discovered in 1770 when Captain James Cook headed up the ship Endeavour sailing into Botany Bay, which is actually now where the Sydney airport is located, and claimed the area for Britain. At the time, the UK was going through the American War of Independence, so the jails were getting full, and generally, urbanization meant people in the UK were moving from the country into the cities, creating this underclass. The upper class were not particularly happy to see coming, so in 1788, 11 ships left Port Stanley, and oh, fun fact, the original packages of the Tim Tam cookies have 11 biscuits in them, and this supposedly represents the 11 ships, which I can't verify, but it'd be a pretty cool fact. Now, if you're like me and have a fairly weak grasp on Australian history, then you sort of have like a vague idea that these first settlers were all convicts, which is partially true. What I didn't realize were 250 of the original 1,050 were actually officers and their families, and when I heard convicts, I was picturing like murderers and rapists, but in fact, a lot of them were just more like owing a debt to the country, so more petty crime, like housemaids who stole from their employers. So the original ships landed just about where the Opera House is now, and the colony of Sydney, which was named after the politician who ordered the ships to leave in the first place, was formed. In general, the first few years really did not go well. The land was pretty harsh, rocky and hilly, and it didn't match what the people were used to, so basically they couldn't grow any crops or food for the first couple years. But a particularly strong propaganda campaign back in Britain kept people coming, and in 1840 the discovery of gold brought a new wave of primarily non-British immigrants into the area. It took a solid 30 years to figure out the whole food growing situation, but once everyone learned, then they started building little cottages and storehouses and some churches and a hospital with a big bronze pig outside, and a mint, which, fun fact, was the first location outside of the UK which was permitted to make and distribute British pounds, and an opera house, and a McDonald's. And so the story goes until you have modern Sydney. And then, of course, you need to build a miniature version of all of these things and then embed it into the floor of your custom house, because that's just like a really super cute thing to do. Rainbow Lane. It's actually, I think from steam. There's a little bit of steam coming off this dryer vent on the hotel, and it is making a little rainbow down this lane. Hello there, sir. What you reading? The newspaper? Well then. This one's a bit out of date. So what we have been up to today, we have been exploring the city of Sydney. Yeah, we went on a morning walking tour, which was really good. It was like 3 hours long, and it just sort of went all around the city business center of Sydney and looked at some different things. And now they also are doing an evening tour, which is what we are going to do, that more focuses on the area called the Rock, so more the touristy, I think, part of Sydney. So yeah, so far it's been really, really good. And then yeah, in between we just sort of wandered on our own and took a look at some of the sites that weren't part of
in association with the university I work at the Royal Botanical Garden in Burlington. So this is kind of cool. This is one of the original ones, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Royal Botanical Gardens in Burlington was one of the first like international places to obtain one of these. Anyways, Bullimai Pine, very pretty. Cool first day in Sydney.